Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
I have to leave at 3 today, just to let you know, okay?
Okay. Hi, Amy.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So Jenny, are you chairing today or am I chairing?
I can chair since I know that you had wanted to meet with me ahead of time, but we hadn't got a chance to do that.
Okay. And then before next month, hopefully we can get together.
Sounds good.
Okay.
It's hard for me to know like who I should wait for.
Who sent out the agenda? I got the FAP survey results for Albemarle in Jennifer's email, but I've
Tina
looking for-
Sexton.
that's who it was. Thank you.
Do you need me to forward it to you, Amy?
No, I can find it. Thank you. I remember seeing it and then I just couldn't remember what email it was in. Thank you. I found it.
I know Tarn is not coming. He's the only one that I heard from.
Okay. So do we think this is it? Is there anybody from Albemarle, I guess? Jennifer? Well, from
So-
Albemarle DSS.
Yeah, I didn't hear from Mary that she wasn't coming.
Crystal's coming. We were both in a meeting, so she should be joining shortly.
Okay.
We can do introductions with Tamara once we get started. That's helpful.
All right. Well, since we have somebody here and a couple of you have to leave early, or just at certain times, why don't we go ahead and get started? If we could go around and do introductions first, and then we'll just do the agenda and the notes, and then we'll go straight to Tamara Ryan so that she can kind of do her part, and then we can finish up with the rest of our agenda, if that's okay. So my name is Jenny Jones, and I am the Chief of Family Services at Charlottesville DSS.
Hi, I'm Krista Gallio. I'm probation supervisor with the 16th Court Service Unit.
I'm Crystal Lance with Region 10.
I'm Amy Hummel. I'm also with Region 10, Children's Case Management Program Manager.
Julia Rubarth. I'm with City Department of Human Services Program Supervisor at Community Attention Foster Families.
Suzanne Flad, I'm a special ed coordinator with Albemarle County Schools.
Tamara, we met before. Katie Ralston, CSA Coordinator for the city.
Yes, and I
Yep.
work with
And you
Jennifer.
know me.
That's where I say I work with Jennifer, and
Yeah.
I'm Tamara Ryan, and I am the manager for the Office of Program Accountability. So, and I've been working with Katie and Jennifer.
Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, we're just gonna, we don't really do approval of the agenda anymore, but just wanted to make sure everyone was okay with the agenda that you guys have, if there was any additions to that or anything we need to kind of add to it. Look good? And then for the meeting notes, did anyone have any changes that needed to be made to the meeting notes? Oh, Jody came back. There she is. Jody, can you just do a quick introduction?
Sure. Sorry, I got kicked off for some reason. I'm Jody Murphy. I'm with Charlottesville City Schools.
Thank you. And anything that we need to make note of for the last time we met, October 7th meeting notes?
In the third section in C, I think the agency updates, the fourth line down, I can't find them. It says county DSS, agency is going by Harvard Medical Model. That should be DJJ.
So Katie, I don't know how we make our changes.
I'll
these
just,
days.
I have them open, so I'll just make the change now.
Okay. Anything else? It's in the part C, Katie.
Got it.
Everything else look okay?
I think the only thing I would add is it shows as Lindsay Munson was absent, and I think that I'm going to be representing us entirely, so we don't have to be on the lookout for Lindsay joining us.
Take her off of the future notes. I'll let Tina know.
Okay.
And well, she'll be listening to this video when she does it. Get the message yourself.
Okay. Well, Jennifer, if you want to kind of, you and Tamara maybe start with what you guys have already discussed and kind of take it away.
Yeah. So as you guys remembered, we had talked previously about the whole satisfaction survey and just trying to get something up and running. And so Katie and I met with Tamara to, kind of get her thoughts about how we could make this work. And we sent you guys out what we sort of drafted. And so part of it would be getting your feedback on what you all think about the survey, if there's anything you think we need to change or modify. And then Tamara can help speak to more of the logistics of how we could maybe try to roll it out. So I don't know if anybody has any feedback about the survey.
The actual questions and how it's formatted.
So when I was looking at the one item about the service was delivered in a professional manner, I think that would probably need a little bit more definition to it or clarification, maybe wording wise.
Yeah, so what we did was at the last program meeting, we had shared the example survey that came out from the OCS UR report. And so I'm guessing that was the wording on that question, but we can certainly flesh that out a little bit. Do you have any suggestions, Crystal?
Well, I think it depends on what we really mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what are we really trying to get at? I don't know. I mean, were they timely? Were they respectful? Were they, I mean, what exactly are we, asking in a professional manner?
Could we potentially list those as examples? Because when I think professional, I'm thinking, were they on time? Did they keep appointments?
Mhm. They respected my time.
Right.
Right.
Could we just use those type of words within that sentence? Just tweak that one a little bit.
Mhm. I think it needs a little more clarity for families. Did they do what they said they were going to do?
So if you do that, you may want to do more than one sentence, because I'm hearing timely. I'm hearing respecting my times, so it depends. You may need to do more than one sentence.
Mhm.
So Tamara, would that be like different questions? Like you're saying we would need different questions for them to respond to? For each one?
Yes. Yes, because it sounds like there may be more than one meaning, depending on what you're asking.
Versus like defining professional in the number 2 question.
Yes.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the questions?
I think it's a great start, and to do something, I mean, we've batted back and forth so many times that I would just love to see the results of this, and just, we might tweak it in the future, but other than the professionalism piece, I think it looks good.
What about the services provided section? Because that was something Jennifer and I added after the last meeting, when we talked about having that. Does that feel like it gets at most of them? Obviously, we don't, we didn't want it to be like an exhaustive list.
I actually really like that it's broken out, so we know exactly what service they're talking about.
Was there discussion about including like case management as a service, since it's not on there?
I think when we were thinking about CSA funded services, I think we pay for Region 10 case management.
Occasionally, yeah.
But
Yeah, we do have some kids that are CSA funded for case management and CSA funded for ICC wraparound. I mean, we'll always have CSA funded ICC and wraparound, but we do have some kids that are getting CSA funded case management. I don't know if that's necessary or not.
yeah, well, that's why I brought it up, to see if this encompasses everything, all the services that we wanted on here. We can certainly add to the list if it's helpful. I mean, we have other as well. I don't know how often people write stuff in. Tamara, maybe you know more about that, but
Well, I just would caution to keep this sweet and short, since we are trying to get people don't like to fill out surveys. That's the first thing. They don't, so many people are surveying people now that they just, most people, you're probably going to get a 20, don't be surprised if you don't get like 20% of the people filling out a survey. Surveys, you're going to get a very low percentage of people even completing them. And you're going to want to keep them short and sweet, just to even get that 20% or so to even complete them. And then with the comments, you're not going to get necessarily a lot of comments either, just because of the fact that people don't like to complete surveys. So I just caution you to keep this as short and sweet as possible, just because of that.
I think just like the FAP survey, you know, we tweaked it over time. And so if we find that there's just something missing on this one, we can start with this. And then if we decide we need to change something, we can always do that later.
Exactly.
It occurs to me as I'm looking at it that sometimes the sticking point is communication, whether it was clear or responsive or respectful or those kinds of things. Is there value in adding something specifically around communication?
And that's depending upon what you all want to know, of course.
I think that can be one example of, you know, what we are thinking about when we think about professional manner. So I don't know if we could, I mean, in the spirit of keeping it short and sweet, if we could come up with maybe just 2 of those type of questions that we've like already talked about, that would get at communication, and then maybe the respect piece or something like that. And then maybe that would kind of handle both of those things.
Sounds good.
Can I just ask for a question? Like, the service provider connected me to community resources. Like, what if that's not something that was meant to happen? And so what's the answer there that somebody's supposed to give, right? Like, no opinion to me, if I was filling that survey out, would seem negative. So I'm just wondering, is there a NA, or like, does there need to be an answer that doesn't make you feel like you're dinging your service provider when that's not something that maybe was meant to happen? Because that's a very specific question, and I understand why it's there, but not all services would be asking for a link to community services.
So I definitely think we could add that to one of the options for that particular question.
And just have it say not applicable, or?
Definitely, you want not applicable then, if that's the case.
So is there anything else that folks have as far as the survey itself? Because the other piece that we need to figure out is sort of how to go about doing the survey. When we met with Tamara, what we talked about was there sort of being 2 options. One would be to do one great big massive send out at one point in time. And then the other option would be sending this out on more of a rotation with like the FAP schedule, so that you don't have a whole lot of them going out all at one time. It would sort of be going out in line with as the cases are coming in. And so FAP would be a way to monitor which cases should be getting this survey. So one is figuring out that piece. The other thing that's come up is, so it sounds like we could do the Survey Monkey, and that it would work on a phone, and that we could text the link for people to, I guess, use to get to the survey. But the only thing is, we'd have to do it separate from the city and the county, because we would want to know which like locality you're reporting the survey to. So that's the other piece that we would need to figure out.
Unless, Tamara, it's easier, and I don't remember if we talked about this or not, to have like at the top of the survey, they would indicate which locality
Yes, so I could help you in 2 ways. I could set up 2 different surveys, one for the city, one for the county. Or like you said, we could have them mark which entity they receive services from. It is likely easier for me to set it up, one for the city, one for the county. That way it's with SurveyMonkey, it's much easier to have the data set up for each entity and to be able to analyze the data.
Okay.
Much easier.
Okay, so 2 surveys.
And then do folks have thoughts about the other piece as far as how to sort of do this? If we do it all at one time, I mean, it would be a pretty large undertaking. But then you'd be doing it just that one time. Whereas if we do it the other way, it would be smaller, but it would be ongoing.
How many people, remind me, are we talking about sending the survey to for each entity?
I mean, I think it depends on how often we're going to do it. If we did it like a one-shot thing, I mean, that's going to be like hundreds of people.
So monthly, quarterly, you don't want, number one, you don't want it too far out because you don't want people to forget how their experience was. So I would say no further out than quarterly. You certainly can do real time or a point in time survey where someone gives the link as soon as they leave. So I would email everyone the link to give out, depending on which locality you're with. So we could do that. But again, I would say no more than quarterly because people will forget their experience and what even happened.
So sorry, I missed the last meeting and I'm late to this one. I apologize. I had a repairman here that was taking longer than I anticipated. At any rate, so, what is the overall goal? I mean, are we trying to survey everybody? Like, I guess what's the purpose of this survey? That might help me sort of figure out what might be best in terms of when and how to do it.
So part of it was one of the surveys that we were supposed to have in place was like a provider satisfaction survey. And so as part of our family engagement, we were wanting to just try to get something in place because before we had really struggled with maybe it getting too complicated, and we're just trying to keep it as simple as we can. And so our goal is really to just try to roll something out. And that's why there's literally 4 questions. Like we want to keep it brief in the hopes that 1, people will respond, and 2, that it won't feel so overwhelming to us because we're still going to have to manage the data and what to do with it. And so the thought was if we could just start with something and then again, like if we needed to tweak the survey, that we could certainly do that. But that we're at least trying to get some of this data in about the family's satisfaction with the providers, because that's something that we haven't had in place before.
Okay, because it seems to me if we did it like in relation to fact, we would want to make sure like we wouldn't necessarily want to surveying the same family every 6 months, or if we do, then we would need to find a way to mark that, because otherwise, like, I don't know, it sort of confounds the data. And so I like either the idea of doing it when their FAP case closes, or we do it at the 6-month mark, or we just do it, or if we did it all at once, you're going to have people in there that may have only been in services for a week versus those that have had services for 5 years. And if we're looking at the folks who have been in for a very long time, which some folks have, it might be very hard for them to answer this survey, right? Because they could have had, 5 different in-home providers, or they could, so how do you, I just think it would be much more difficult for someone who's been in the FAP system for a while to be able to answer the survey as written. So if we want people who, when they hit the 6-month mark to do it, maybe it would be cleaner, it would be easier, they would have had some experience with services. I don't know. So that's why I asked the question was, it sort of depends on if we just want a one-shot deal about in general how our service is going, or do we want, if we want something that's really like, I don't know. So I'm sort of leaning towards, and this would be tricky and we would have to figure out how to then measure that, like figure this out, but doing it a one shot, like doing it with a family at a certain point in time, but only giving it to them once. The other thing though is if we're trying to get some sort of statistical significance, or we want to see like, if it's just a general, yes, they like the services, or no, they don't, fine. But if we want it to have a lot of any sort of meaning, you need to have a lot of surveys, right? Like you can't have 5 people respond. It's not going to really tell us anything. So there's that piece as well. So if we're doing it as people are in for every 6 months, it's going to take us a lot longer to get enough data to tell us anything than if we did it at one shot. Just my thoughts.
I definitely understand the data part of that, but I really worry that if we did the one shot, we're not going to have a lot of people respond, and that a lot of time could have passed before they would take the survey, and so they're not going to remember. I feel like most of these questions, even if you have been receiving service for quite a while, they all seem to still apply, to be able to get some type of feedback of that they feel that their service provider, is providing them a good service or not, which I feel like in general is like really what we're asking. Like, are you satisfied with what we're providing you? So those are just my thoughts.
And again, don't be surprised if you send out 100 surveys, you're likely to get back 20%. So you're likely to get back about 20. So don't be surprised at all.
Which might be then argument for it to be attached to FAP somehow.
What I was thinking about would be, obviously we're tracking cases when they come back to FAP. So when you hit the 6-month mark, that could be when we tell like the case manager, hey, you need to send the link to the family to complete this survey. But I think if we do it that way, the family's probably going to get it every 6 months. Unless we had some way of tracking who's gotten them.
Yeah. Maybe that's fine. I don't know.
Okay. The other thing would be like we have the CSA discharge form. So when a case manager submits one, we would know at that point that the survey could go out, but that would be on discharge. That wouldn't be. So again, it would sort of be the question of, do you want it at the end when it's all over, or does it make more sense to do it every 6 months when they're coming back to FAP to be getting like this information? So I don't know what you all think.
Could we do it at the year mark and then at dismissal? Or would we miss too many? I don't know how many you have stop after a year.
Just depends on the case. I don't know the numbers. It's just that the typical FAP schedules every 6 months. That's why it would be easier to just do that way.
Mhm.
That's fine. I just don't want to overburden anybody. I only have a few, so it wouldn't be a big deal for me, but I know some of you have a lot, so.
Yeah, I mean, so part of it may be that I mean, especially the DSS folks, it may be worth asking them because, I mean, like every week we would be sending these out because every week FAPT is meeting. So, you know, if your case managers feel like that's something that they could take on, it definitely seems like from what we've seen since the pandemic started, a lot of folks have gotten access to smartphones. So we felt like this would be something that would be hopefully easy for case managers to just send like their parents the link to be able to complete it.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you all would want to get that feedback from your folks first, or if you feel like it's a manageable thing. I mean, all they would be responsible for is sending them the link. They don't, you know, there's no follow-up or anything.
I don't really think it would be a big burden for anybody I mean, our case managers maybe have a couple in a week, but I mean, I don't think it would be that big of a deal. You're just asking them to text them a link, which a lot of them already text them anyway for other things. So I don't know. I don't see like it would be a big deal, but. And I like the idea of texting the link. I think that's a great idea.
Well, I'm good with 6 months and then at the dismissal.
Or just do it every 6 months. I mean, I guess if it's the same family, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe, I mean.
Well, their experience.
Their services change, their experience changes. Sorry, Suzanne, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've been doing the parent satisfaction thing at FAPS for several years, every 6 months. I mean, this seems to me like we've been doing that. This seems probably as or more valuable at this point, given how long we've done that every 6 months for everybody. So do it every 6 months and then figure out what pitfalls there might be. I think it's a good marker. I mean, every time I go to the doctor, I get a survey. How was your visit?
That's true.
It's too bad. I mean.
Okay. So it sounds like folks are good with it, just sort of following the FAP schedule then.
But I agree, you wouldn't do it at the first FAPT. You would probably wait, you know, because like you said, people are just getting started, you know.
Yeah.
I'm curious with the top part of checking off all the different services, is that going to make it harder for them to fill out if they've got multiple services and they don't know, some have been professional and some have not, some have discharge plans, some have not? Is there going to be a way that we'll be able to pull that out, or we're just looking for that aggregate?
Hopefully they'll put that in the comments. Like, well, this one was great, but I didn't like this. Like, hopefully they'll write that down.
Yeah. And from what I've seen with the FAP surveys, I mean, we definitely have folks who leave comments. For the most part, they're typically positive. But when you have somebody who's actually really had a bad experience, like they usually are more likely to leave a comment. So I feel like if that's been their experience with the service provider, they're more likely to write a comment. So I guess the next step would be taking this to CPMT just to get their approval. And Tamara, I guess we'll get with you after that. Figure out the links and whatever else we need to do. Is there any other questions you guys can think of for Tamara?
And when is CPMT? When should I expect to hear back from you, rather?
It's the third Wednesday. I think it's the 16th, December 16th, they're supposed to meet. So we should know after that, and I'll get with you once we get their input.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for your help.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, well, that's exciting that we've moved forward, something we've been talking about forever.
I think it's great too. I like the questions. I like that it seems like it'll be easy and quick to fill out, which some people will be more likely to do it. I like that it's being texted to folks. I think it's good. I like it.
Okay, so let's go back up to the top of the agenda and start with our updates. So FAPT updates.
So for county, which again, I don't know if this needs to come down under the focus area or up in the FAP part, but so I sent out the FAP surveys for the county. You guys can see, like, we obviously have to mail all of them out because folks participate virtually. We had 25 go out and 7 come back, which isn't a horrible number. And again, for the most part, they're generally very positive comments. So that's that part of it. The other thing for County FAPT, and this is totally my bad. So Erica Jenny-John is the current chair of County FAPT. And so I've now informed her that she should be participating on program. So she'll be joining us for January's meeting if it happens, or for the next meeting, she'll be there for that. So I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Yeah, and I'm happy to, if she needs me to update people, I'm happy to do that as well.
As far as FAPT itself, it sounds like everything's pretty much the same. It's going the same as it has been.
City FAPT, the same. It seems like it's slowed down in terms of having parental involvement, but that may just be my perception, but I think it's plugging along.
All right, CSA Coordinator update.
Yes, so I don't know if any of you guys participated in the virtual CSA conference. Did anybody have the chance? So, okay, I don't know if you guys have any input about it. So I thought the opening speaker did a really nice job. And then sort of everything after that it felt a lot like how they were dealing with COVID, and I didn't find that as helpful. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about it.
Yeah, I thought it could have been richer. I mean, I thought they could have probably had a little bit more specific topic interest. If you were in one of those, like if you were in the school system or whatever, you'd be much more interested in what was happening. So it seemed specific to each discipline or whatever you call it, agency, entity. But yeah, so it didn't have a lot of broad interest. Each presentation didn't have a lot of broad interest to it. I mean, I did pick up a little bit of nuggets specifically from the DSS, what's happening in the state level, as far as moving forward with family first, et cetera.
And then the other thing is, so the JLARC report for CSA came out, they did their presentation. And so their big recommendation was that that the funds for the private days, that money be moved out of CSA, that was really what their findings were, and that the cost, because it was primarily about like the rising cost of private day, and what they said their data showed was that really the private days weren't making a huge profit, and so that's not what it was about, and that these costs are continuing to rise. One of the suggestions that they had was that CSA services be allowed to be purchased in the school setting, and they felt like that might be a way to keep some of the kids in the public school setting. So again, that's something I can send you guys that report if you're interested in seeing it. The CSA coordinators are going to be having a meeting, I think December 11th, to talk about that report and sort of its implications. But that's kind of all I know at this point, is that's really, that was kind of what their findings were. So there's sort of this looming question about what they would do, about whether they would move that money out and put it back into the schools. So do you guys want me to send you the link to the report? Okay. And I think that's all I have for CSA, for the coordinator's update.
All right, any partner agency updates?
Well, this is my last program meeting, so that's why Amy is here today, because she's going to be our next representative, for, at least for the time being. So I think Tina's had her on the list for some time anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
So my last day with Region 10 will be December 31st. So
We're sad for us, happy for Crystal.
yeah.
Yes, enjoy.
Congratulations,
Retirement. We will miss you though.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Any other updates?
No updates from CAP. We're plugging along. Waiting for state guidance.
All right, well, we had added service provision during COVID just to give each other an opportunity to talk about how it's going or any challenges, and to get, I guess, support from each other or ideas if needed. So does anybody have anything to report or discuss?
We are being challenged with recruiting during the time of COVID, recruiting foster families. So we are trying to get creative with social media. Word of mouth is always good for us, but we are absolutely open to any ideas or suggestions or openings for trying to get new families involved. So if anyone has any thoughts?
Probably not anything that you haven't already thought of, but just that people are seeming to be more online these days. So it seems that any of that social media stuff seems to be what's, working.
There was, I guess it's a regional grant. They're supposed to be helping us with recruiting and social media schedules and all that kind of stuff, and it really hasn't panned out as well. We're trying to figure out how much makes sense in terms of sponsored ads or boosting ads, or all those kinds of things to try to get attention from other folks. We're also kind of going back old school, trying to figure out radio blasts and grants and all that. But this is kind of a hard time to ask folks to take on new things, especially when they're probably sick of their own children. To take on new ones would be, and trying not to put their families and loved ones at risk when we've got kids coming and going and respite in schools and all the rest. Mm-hmm. Keep us in mind if you think of anything.
Any other updates? All right, UR guidance. I kind of forgot what we needed to talk about with that.
I think that was where the survey came from. So we had also talked about last meeting, Region 10,
Mentoring.
the mentoring, UR around mentoring. Forgot how we left that. I think
we were you're supposed to like update CPMT to that idea, and
then we didn't have CPMT.
right. That's probably still the next step.
Okay. So we can bring that up. I haven't, are we definitely having CPMT?
I think so.
Okay. So we can do that at that meeting and then come back to it in January. Okay, and then for the focus areas, I think we just kind of generally talk about those all lumped together. Anything update on service gaps, or we don't have to do anything with that, right?
We haven't gotten anything from OCS about it.
And we haven't gotten anything specific from CPMT with data review, right?
Oh, so they actually, the CQI tool that they were going to complete, what they realized was that they actually didn't need to do it, I think, until is January, right, Katie? I think it's January. So they were going to take a little bit more time to get it kind of updated. And then I think it's going to CPMT in January. So we'll actually bring it back to you guys after that.
All right, we talked about family engagement with the surveys. Anything with case manager and provider input? All right, does anyone have anything with trauma-informed services that needed to be reported out? I know a lot of our stuff that we were working on with the court has all been stalled. And that was, I think going to be a really big help with kind of pushing forward the trauma-informed initiative within child welfare cases and adding with our community partners and things like that. So that's still to be determined if that's going to resume. All right, any other, anything else to report out on that, or any other new business? Okay, so the message out to CPMT will be about our survey and how we're going to roll that out, as well as the kind of mentoring question / approval for the UR guidance. Anything else? Okay, so we'll plan to meet in January, or is that an awkward date? Let's see when it is. It would be January 6th. That seem fine?
Fine with me.
Okay, well, we'll plan to meet
fine
then.
with me if you guys meet.
Thanks, Crystal.
Thinking about you.
She's going to be very generous with her time after December.
Very generous with other people's time.
Well, thank you, Crystal, for everything that you've given, and all your help over the years. And it's been much appreciated. And we are excited for you, and we'll all be sad that you're not with us. But hopefully we'll see you around.
Yeah, I never say goodbye, because you never know when you're going to cross paths again, and trying to burn any bridges either, right? No, I'll be around.
Good.
I know where she lives.
For now.
Yeah, that may change. She may
I
go
got
fully off the grid.
Now.
I know.
All right. Well, you guys have a good holiday season, and we'll see each other on Zoom in January.
Sounds
Y'all
good.
too.
All right.
Bye, all.
Bye.
Thanks.